Welcome everyone to the Real Talk Sports Show. And I'm your host, the Minister Jonathan Simmons. And we have, if you guys went around last week, we have a lovely new co host, Miss Latricia Dolman. Welcome back.
Hello. How are you?
Hey, fantastic. So it is good to see you once again here, bright and shiny. Beautiful day here in Atlanta. And look at that smile just goes like the whole screen.
Why, thank you.
Yeah, another great weekend in sports as always. Lots of stuff going on, and we're going to talk about a lot of these things as we go forward here. Again, guys, you are listening and watching the Real Talk Sports Show. We want to give a big shout out to those who are watching, I should say, listening to us, WIGO 1570, Atlanta's Incredible Radio, and also to all those of you watching on the replay on Periscope. Thank you so much, and those of you watching on demand on YouTube as well. Thank you. As you know, we also broadcast on Facebook Live and on Periscope, and we also will be broadcasting on Twitch in just a minute. So we got it all covered, all completely covered. So how was your weekend, Miss Latika?
My weekend was fabulous watching all of these wonderful games that came on. You know, I love sports, so it was a great weekend for sports, except for my two teams that played each other.
Let's go to showdown to your two favorite teams, Vikings and the Lions. And we'll talk a little NFL. We're also going to talk, of course, when we get in the NFL, the Falcons, as we bring D. Orlando Ledbetter back in our broadcast, as we always do. We'll also talk a little bit about the Heisman Trophy Award, which is going on right now. I think it's already been awarded. We'll try to see if we can jump online and find out who was the big winner of the Heisman Trophy as well. So lots of good stuff. If you want to chime on in and join us, you can do so. I'm going to go ahead and put up the invite link on the screen so you guys can see it. If you want to join us, here it is right here. You can join us here. Just go ahead and click on. Here's how it works, guys. If you want to join us, you click on this link on with your phone, or you can do it with your and come on your computer. There it is. You can join us. We'll see you in the studio, and we're going to treat this like the phone call, like on a regular sports show. You can come on in and you can ask myself or Latricia a question, or just kind of break it down yourself if you got something that you think is sports worthy to talk about. Well, one of the things that we want to mention is the Hawks. We got to give some props out to our Atlanta Hawks. They are back playing in the NBA, ready to rock and roll. Have you been able to catch any of the games so far?
I have. I watched the game the other day. They're playing good, and they're 4-3. I mean, they're off to a great start.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. Let's go ahead and get some questions up here on the screen here, so people can know what's going to go on. Okay, go ahead. Bam, this is it. You're gonna let me talk just a second. These are our questions. One, end zone celebrations too much. We're gonna talk a little bit about that. Let's change over. Here we go. There's our questions. Okay, I know what's wrong with our questions tonight. They've all gone haywire. Well, we'll come back to those in just a little bit. But the big question we're going to ask are the Hawks legit? That's the first thing I want to ask you, Latricia. Are they legit? We also want to ask about the Heisman Trophy. Do you think that the winners were the right people that were picked out tonight? Whoever won. Again, we'll check that in a little bit. We'll also ask the question later on, who should the Falcons draft? Because most likely they're going to get a first 5 pick. Should they go after a quarterback, or if the top 2 quarterbacks are not available, should they draft someone else? So those are some of the questions that we're going to ask tonight in the broadcast. But first, talk to me about the Hawks. You say they're legit. I know one reason why you're thinking about that. How do you like the play of the big man, Clint Lapella, that they just brought in from Houston?
I think he's fitting right in. I think he plays well. I think I said last week, I'm not sure, but it's important to get rebounds. Rebounds is a big part of the game. And anytime that you can get rebounds, whether on offensive end or the defensive end, that is a big game changer. And so it's very important to have a good big man. And I like him fitting in. I think he fits great with the Hawks.
Well, I think the big shocker for me is seeing how well he's playing offensively. I think he's averaging somewhere around 15 or 16 points a game. He has now been the tag team dunkmeister along with John Collins. So that's what I think was surprising for me. I didn't know he could score that way.
Yeah. Well, it's always the points will definitely come, and like you said, it's great. I love the dunk show. Who doesn't love the dunk show? That's a great part of the game. And whenever you can do both, I think it's really good. So I'm loving watching the Hawks. I think we're going to have a great season.
Yeah, so the cool thing, they had fans last night. So I think Quavo and some of the other guys were there, the normal stars that come out. But also they're talking about the big kind of grand kickoff to the season is going to be next Friday, Martin Luther King Day, a celebration. I think it's Friday, might be the following Monday. But anyway, they actually are going to unveil the special way they have the court set up with a kind of a black and gold motif to celebrate MLK Day.
Yes, and I've seen the jerseys or either a sneak peek. And when I tell you I love what they're doing to represent Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., it is phenomenal. And I think that is well deserved. And I love that they are wearing the jerseys with respect to him. And I think it will definitely help increase, even though we all know that they come out to play hard every day, right? That's their job. It's playing the sport that they love. But I think playing also when you have Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on your chest and a jersey in honor of him, I think it just helps that little more to play a little harder.
Well, I think you're absolutely right here. Let's kind of go to social media real quick here for some commentary. Let's see what we have here on social media. Bam, of course, our producer, he says, okay, he's told us, here's the breaking news. DeVonta Smith is our winner of the Heisman Trophy Award. Let's see if I can blow that up just a little bit more. So DeVonta Smith is our winner. So there it is. He beat out Kyle Trask from Florida, which I knew that was going to happen there because Trask kind of fell on his head a little bit. So he is gone, did not win. DeVonta Smith is our winner. So it looks like a wide receiver has pulled it off. The guy was a stud for Alabama. So you got it. I guess now the question is, where is he going to go in the draft? And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. We bring on Brian Jones to talk about kind of where the draft is going to go for 2021. And of course, we're going to deal with the Falcons. And also, I want to get your feedback on who the Lions should draft. Maybe next year you got some people that you might want to peek into. And not only that, I believe your team is in need of a coach as well. So we'll talk about that, all that kind of stuff as we get more and more into the football section as we go on. Again, guys, you're listening to the Real Talk Sports Show, watching the Real Talk Sports Show on multiple platforms. As a matter of fact, let's kick in the guys from Twitch and get them kicked in. And we're excited that they're doing this as well. So we got all the people here that can possibly join the broadcast. Like I said, we're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, we're also on Periscope as well. And again, we're just very excited to be on all of those different platforms. And let me go ahead and get my my producer out of the action here. And again, we're appreciating him for joining us and letting us know what's happening in the world. Again, guys, you're welcome to the Lockdown Living Room. That's where we broadcast from each and every week. And we hope to actually kind of be out in the mix as we get out and about and as we move forward past this COVID. Latricia, I know you got to be ready to chomping at the bit to get out and do some more stuff. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, don't you have some stuff coming up shortly? Super Bowl and all these other kind of good things going on. Tell us a little bit about that.
I do. So I am the ambassador for the Women of Color Golf. They are having their inaugural golf events for Super Bowl week with the NFL Alumni Tampa Bay chapter. And I am also doing some events down there with Life After Sports Incorporated and FUBU Radio. So I will be at all of their events that they're putting on. They're having a concert with the old school concert. They're doing a comedy show, a step show, a drive-through job fair. They're doing all kind of events, and they're making sure that everything is socially distancing. And so the concerts are outdoors and different things like that. So yes, I will be in Tampa, Lord willing, and looking forward to it and having a great time.
Hey, no doubt. So we look forward to having you be a fine representative of us down there. And again, we're excited about the idea of Super Bowl, giving some coverage again. We're going to be doing most of our stuff virtually because that's kind of the rules of engagement for this year. But again, we are very, very excited to be a part of the Super Bowl coverage as best we can do it in 2020 as well. And that's really our goal, to kind of give you lots of different sports from on the scene. The other thing, Latricia, we're going to be doing some stuff with a group we did with a year or two ago. Matter of fact, we've done it 3 years. We're going to be dealing with the Georgia Swarm, covering them doing some indoor lacrosse.
Nice.
Yep. So we covered it once before. And if you would like to go and check out a game, certainly you can represent Real Talk Sports and get out there and properly social distance and watch these guys hammer out lacrosse in a little bit different way than outdoor lacrosse.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Yeah, it's great stuff. So, and actually, it's funny because along with Atlanta United, they're actually the two professional sports teams that have actually recently claimed a world title. Because in the second year we covered them, they actually won the indoor lacrosse title, knocking off a team from out of Canada. So we actually can go see actually see a championship team for real, instead of what we normally see. No shade on the Falcons, and
Shots fired.
I'm just saying. We're always constantly dealing with that. Well, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a little bit of early break. I got to come make some adjustments here on our microphone. Hey guys, you're watching the Real Talk Sports Show with myself, the lovely Mrs. Dolman, and we'll be back in just a moment. Don't go nowhere, okay? Hang tight. Are you in the market for a new vehicle? Well, check out Allen Vigil Ford Lincoln in Morrow, Georgia. We have one of the largest inventories in our area for both new and pre-owned vehicles, so we're sure to have something for everyone. Family owned and operated since 1982, customer satisfaction is our number one priority. Come see our full lineup of vehicles and find the one that best fits you. Give us a call today, 678-726-5739, or shop us 24/7 online at allenvigilford.net.
This is OJ Howard with Real Talk Sports.
What's up, guys? This is Tim Tebow. You're listening to Real Talk Sports.
This is Charles Woodson. Let me grab the mic. You ready? This is Charles Woodson with Real Talk Sports. Hey, it's your boy JB Smooth with Real Talk Sports.
And we're back, guys. Again, you're watching and listening to the Real Talk Sports Show as we broadcast to you live from every portal we can possibly think of. Here on YouTube Live, we're on Facebook Live, we're on Periscope. We're also broadcasting on WIGO AM 1570 Atlanta's Incredible Radio as well. And we appreciate all those of you, especially those of you on Periscope watching on the replay, and those of you watching YouTube on demand as well. We appreciate all of you for joining us here on our live broadcast. We're going to start to shift gears in just a second. We're expecting Brian Jones to join us. I want to give your I want to talk a little bit about this upcoming game, huge college football championship game, the unexpected Buckeyes from Ohio State squaring off against the perennial powerhouse of Alabama. So who might you think is going to win that game, my dear?
Well, before I say that, I think it's funny that you say unexpected. So they were unexpected to, I guess, you and most people. And I felt like Ohio State would come in with a chip on their shoulder because a lot of people were saying they shouldn't be there. Oh, you shouldn't be here. You haven't played enough games, which again is not their fault. And then they got to play Clemson, the team who they were looking forward to playing since last year. They had the score of the game up in their locker room, weight room. It was a constant reminder. And so they had it out for Clemson. And so they came and they showed that not only they were meant to be there, but they showed that Clemson, yeah, they had it out for them. They beat them by 21 points. So that was a huge victory for Ohio State and the Big Ten. Now, who do I think will win the game?
Yes, who do you think is going to win the game? That's the big question.
I am going to go with Alabama. I am going to go with Alabama Crimson Tide because with the matchups, which I don't know, it's kind of tough. It's a tough. I think it's going to be a close game, but I do think Alabama will pull it out. Who do you think will win?
Yeah, so for me, that's kind of what I pick. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. Early betting has Alabama favored by 9 points. I think that's ridiculous. I think you're going to be in a situation where that game is going to be close. I'm looking for a score something like 34-31 final, maybe even 38-34. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think and that the Buckeyes have something still to prove. I think, again, like you said, they have a chip on their shoulder, and they know from past experience the last time they had a chip on their shoulder and played the number one ranked team, Alabama, they actually beat them in the semifinal.
Mhm.
So it's possible they can come out here and do it again. And the one thing that I found in terms of watching the two teams, that Ohio State is strong where, in fact, Alabama has a weakness, which is to be able to throw the ball deep. One thing that Alabama has shown throughout this season, they showed against Florida, they showed in the first half against Georgia, that you can beat them offensively with a big passing attack and with big plays. So, and we saw, last week against Clemson, the Ohio State, they can swing it and they can wing it, and they have the type of team that can really eat up yards and put up some big plays. So I think that's going to be the key. But I think ultimately the Tide has got just too many top players on their team to be able to lose this game. And I think that Nick Saban has got a bad taste in his mouth. I think that he wants that trophy back bad. So that's what. Let's
Yeah.
hear from a young man here that knows a lot about sports. He covers sports and he covers what's happening in pop culture as well. Brian Jones, welcome back to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me back. Thank you so much for having me.
Brian, good to see you, of course. So we've been talking a little bit about college football here. We've had Ms. Stallman give her opinion. She thinks, like me, that the Crimson Tide is going to knock off the Buckeyes. What say you, Brian Jones?
Yeah, I think Alabama will win, but I think it will be a lot closer than what people think it will be. And I think largely because of the way Justin Fields has played. A lot of people were counting him out when Ohio State played Clemson last week. And Justin Fields said that he prepared like he's never prepared before for a game because he's heard all the talk about him not being able to play well in big games. He struggled against Northwestern. He struggled against Indiana. And his draft stock kind of dropped a little bit. And he's a guy that performed well overall this year and last year. And I think he has a chip on his shoulder. I think if there's a team that can compete with Alabama other than Clemson, it is Ohio State. Now, Ohio State has taken its share of criticism because it hasn't played that many games, but they are one of the best teams in the country. So I think when it's all said and done, I think Alabama just has a little bit too much firepower offensively. When you talk about Mac Jones and Devontae Smith, who won the Heisman. But Ohio State, I think they can compete with them if Justin Fields, if they're able to protect them and he's able to be accurate with his throws like he was last week. So I think it'll be a very compelling game.
Oh, no doubt. I think that it's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be a barn burner. I think you might get your popcorn out and get ready for some slinging and winging. Okay, so now your opinion on the Heisman Trophy Award winner. I thought that when you have two guys on the same teams that it might be split up. What do you think about Devontae Smith ultimately being the winner of that prize, the Heisman Trophy?
I think he deserves it. He was clearly the best player in all of college football. He won the AP College Player of the Year, which pretty much indicates you're going to win the Heisman. I don't know how the voting broke down when it was all said and done, but he probably got so many second place votes that propelled him to win the Heisman. And you're right, with him and Mac Jones being the finalists, you thought maybe Trevor Lawrence could steal some first place votes and get enough to win. But Devontae Smith has performed at a high level all throughout the year. And I think that won't change in the national championship game. And I think he scored 3 touchdowns in the game against Notre Dame. So he was clearly the best player in all of college football. He's the third wide receiver to win the Heisman. The first is Desmond Howard won it in 1991. So he was very exciting to watch all year. And I think, again, it's not going to change once he plays the national championship. So more fans will get to see why he won the Heisman.
Well, he's been virtually unstoppable. He's been a big play machine. Let's go here quickly to social media, see what we might have for comments there. We got Mr. Emmanuel Johnson jumping into the fray, and he says, there's the big question. He wants to know from our panel, what do you think the Georgia Bulldogs have to do to eventually knock off the Crimson Tide, win the SEC East, and win potentially a national championship? I hope I put it all in for you, Emmanuel. Ms. Dolman, what do you think first? I'll go to you. What do you think that Georgia has to do to kind of get their game up, get the weight up to take on the Crimson Tide?
Well, the first thing that I think they need to do is realize that it's all about the attitude and it's a mental game when it comes to sports. So I think that Georgia, they recruit great guys and they have good game plans, but when it comes down to it, you'll find the reason that Alabama wins a lot of games, or different teams that have championships, and their nature is that even when they're down, no matter what happens, the players know in their mind, we are not going to lose this game and we are going to come back and win. And Georgia doesn't have that. Georgia has the mentality, they start good, they're able to come out strong, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish that matters. What is the score when the clock strikes 0? And Georgia they just don't have that to push through. And so I think the main thing that they need to work on is their mental toughness, because they have great recruits. They're in the weight room. They need to believe. And that's just my opinion.
Mr. Brian Jones, what do you think that the Bulldogs have to do, kind sir?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you look at the last few times Georgia's played Alabama, Georgia has led at halftime, whether it's by a field goal or double digits. They have led those games. So they know how to compete with Alabama. But again, yeah, it goes back to that mental toughness, being able to finish out those games. So it doesn't take a lot. Recruiting is there. Everything is there for Georgia to be a national championship contender year in and year out, and compete with not only just Alabama, but teams like Clemson as well. But it just takes just that one it factor, that one just just mental aspect of the game where they're able to close games out, and that's been a problem for Georgia the last few years. I think if they're able to get that out of the way, then they have a chance to not only win the SEC consistently, but be in the college football player picture year in and year out. Again, they're always, as long as Kirby Smart is the head coach, because he's a great recruiter, they're always going to be in the, whether it's 24/7 Sports or ESPN, top 5, top 10 recruiting classes, whether it's the December signing period or in February. But it just takes a little bit more to compete with a team like Alabama, because they know what it takes to win national championships year in and year out.
All right, Chief, so you know from playing this game, and we'll go to social media one more time here. Emmanuel Johnson says, do we think that Kirby is good enough to win the national title? That's the Natty. Do you think he's good enough to win? Tree, you've been around. How big is coaching as far as getting your team over the hump?
Coaching is huge, and I think that he is good enough to get the team to win a national championship. You know, he's a great coach. They just need to really push through, and whatever he needs to do to get his guys to push through for that championship, because that's what we all play for. It's all about the championship. That's their goals. And like it was said, they just have to push through. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And the finish is what they really, it's like you need to play harder the second half than you do the first half.
Well, one of the things I wonder about, I don't know whether it's something in the water here in Metro Atlanta or what's up, but it doesn't seem that the teams that get the most following, the Bulldogs and to some degree the Falcons, and Brian, you've seen with the Braves, somebody mentioned the clutch gene. It doesn't seem that when the money's on the line, that these teams have somebody that is that money player that will make the play. How important do both of you guys think to have that player that can almost kind of carry the team on your back to make the difference between winning titles and not?
Well, I
go to you first.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very important. I think what separates championship teams from teams that don't win championships is, a number of things, and having those playmakers, having those guys that come up in the clutch is huge. When you look at when the Braves won the World Series in 1995, it was guys like Tom Glavine, David Justice, those guys that came up big in that Game 6 contest against the Cleveland Indians to help them win the World Series. But it was other guys as well throughout the year, and it was really just a number of guys that came up big when the Braves do that 90s Braves run. And you just don't necessarily see that. Now, the Braves this year, or back in 2020, I think they have that ability. They just ran out of gas in the NLCS. So I think they're close to being, a team that could be a World Series contender year in and year out. They just need just more players that can come up in the clutch. And as for Georgia, it's going to take some time. I think, again, they're always going to be one of the most talented players or talented teams in college football, but they just need those one player or two players that come up big when the game is on the line. And for the Falcons, for the most part, they've had an issue just with players coming up big. You know, they've had years where they go on a run, yeah, and whether it's reaching the Super Bowl, we know what happened in 2016. They went to the Super Bowl again in '98. They just don't have those guys that can come up big. So that is very important when it comes to winning championships because when you're playing in a championship game, there's not much that separates you from another team. It's just those one or two plays or one or two players that makes the big difference.
All right, Ms. Dolman, what you think the problem is with these teams here? Do they have the key? Is it the players? Is it the coaches? What do they need to get over the?
I agree with what Brian said. It does come down to those big plays. We all know that when someone makes a big play, it changes the momentum. Once the momentum is in your favor, you keep the momentum and you keep going, and you want to crush a team, and you don't want them to think that they can come back and beat you. And so it is important to have players that are playmakers. And what I think it boils down to is discipline. I've always said, and I've always believed that discipline is the key. What separates great teams from mediocre teams is discipline. I love the post that you see where there's players that are running to touch the line, and you see where one player is missing the line and the other ones are touching the line. Things like that make a difference, and it makes a difference when it comes to these championship games, because when you work hard and practice, that's where champions are born. The things that you do outside of the game, when no one is watching, how hard you work in the weight room, are you going to cheat on your reps, or are you going to, if you forget where you're counting, go over? Then it's when those championship games come. That's where those differences are made. And I just think that we just need more people that have more discipline and just really get in their minds we are not losing, and that can motivate their teammates. We just need people on the teams that will really motivate and push through, because then it'll spread. It'll just be contagious. And then once you get through your head, you're not going to lose, then guess what? You won't. You'll push through no matter what. You will win those games.
We got social media popping right now. Let's go here real quickly here to Periscope. Hopefully, my man Benito Petrillo is still here. He says we should be talking some NHL. He likes the idea of should the borders be open? And we'll get to that question, my friend, in just a second. We'll go back to Emmanuel Johnson on Facebook. Oh, let's see if I got him. Here he is. He says, decision-making is questionable, talking about Kirby, especially at quarterback. Oh, please tell the story. And then let's go on the Periscope here. I guess this young man is just saying hello. So, Emmanuel, let's go back to your question here. Kirby's questionable judgment in quarterback. Okay. I really have tried not to talk about this because Kirby is Kirby. The previous coach, Mark Richt, is Mark Richt. But there seems to be a disconnect for whatever reason on Georgia bringing mobile quarterbacks to play at Georgia. The last guy we've had, and he wasn't necessarily a dual threat, but he was mobile, was really DJ Shockley. And we've had some of the best college quarterbacks in the history of the game play right down the road from Georgia, and mysteriously, either they can't seem to get him here, or in the case of Justin Fields, when they get him here, they find some reason that he doesn't appear to be good enough as the starter. Now, I'm hoping that this is just some guys that can't judge talent. I hope there's nothing else to it, but it's just odd that all of these quarterbacks, they have a little melanin in their skin. I'm just kind of saying that's odd to me that they can't seem to find a way. They told, when Mark Richt was here, he told Cam, you can come play for Georgia if you want to play tight end. Justin Fields allegedly wasn't good enough to run the Georgia offense. All they could do is put him in for gadget plays. And now the guy, had it not been for that one bad game against Indiana, would have been in the ranking for the Heisman Trophy Award. So I'm just kind of saying they need to understand that the game has moved to a quarterback that can both run and pass. Let's go to social media one more time here. Question for the panel. He said he agrees. He says that the lack of coaching for all teams, our coaching lets us down. We have the players. Ms. Dolman, do you think we really have the players, especially if you look at a team like Georgia? Seems like it does. Brian said they have this high recruiting class. And how about the Falcons? Do they really have the players that can can make it go, or do they, is it a player issue as well?
Honestly, I think we do have the players. I think we've had players for a while. Even if you want to go back, which I know a lot of Atlanta Falcons fans don't want to talk about the Super Bowl, but they had the game won. It was won. All you had to do was finish the game. So it's not a matter of not having the players. I think that was definitely coaching. And with some of the other games, it's like the game is won pretty much. You just have to finish. You just have to play defense. But a lot of times I feel that what our teams do, Georgia and the Falcons, they get so excited that they're up. And it's just like, oh, yeah, we go in the halftime and, oh, we're winning. And, and then I think they just kind of come out and smooth or cruise control the way to the finish. And as I've said earlier, that's not what you can do. Yeah, you may be up at halftime, but when you come back from halftime, it's 0-0 again. So you have to come out and push through that second half and play harder the second half than you did the first half. So I really think that coaching is a big part of it. We have talent.
Brian, what do you think? We have enough talent here to have winning programs both at Georgia and at, in the case of the Atlanta Falcons?
So I'll start with the Falcons. And this year, when you look at their overall record, 4-12 is not great by any means. But while they're not the most talented team in the NFL, they do have their share of talent. And we saw what they did at the beginning of the year. They were able to compete with teams, but they weren't, for whatever reason, and I think a lot of it has to do with coaching and how they manage the game, they weren't able to finish those games. And as a result, that's why Dan Quinn was let go after the team started 0-5. And the Falcons had their worst record since 2013. So I think, and again, when it comes to the NFL, talent, there's not much that separates teams when it comes to talent. It's all about coaching, and it's all about how you manage the game. So that's why the Falcons are looking for a new head coach and a new GM, because the coaching here has been questionable at best the last few years. As for Georgia, I think it's kind of the same situation, because when you look at what they did reaching the national championship game in 2017, they were up by double digits, but they didn't make the necessary adjustments at halftime compared to Alabama when they replaced Jalen Hurts with Tua. They felt like they had the game won already, I believe. So coaching plays a huge factor when it comes to being a championship caliber team. So I think and I think Kirby Smart, again, he has the ability to get to a national championship game because he's been there before. And as long as he continues to recruit, as long as he's able to bring in top players, I think what he has to do moving forward is learning from his mistakes when it comes to managing games. If he can do that, then Georgia clearly has a chance to win a national championship. And for the Falcons, we'll see who they bring in as a new head coach and the new GM. So hopefully they can manage games a little bit better than the Dan Quinn regime.
Social media is still popping. Emmanuel Johnson, we got him all stirred up and fired up. He's like, yeah, the Falcons have the players. Coaching decisions let them down. Same with the Hawks. He said Lloyd Pierce is not a good coach. Oh, little shade at Lloyd Pierce. Brian, we had talked basketball a little earlier. So
yeah,
Ms. Doma already gave me her feedback. She thinks the Hawks are definitely a legit team. What do you think about the Hawks? Are you buying or selling our Atlanta Hawks?
I think they're exciting to watch, and I think the additions really can propel this team to a number 5, number 6 seed in the Eastern Conference. The last 2 games, they were up by 15, and they lost those games. You could say they run out of gas. They were missing some players. Rajon Rondo wasn't playing in the last game. So I think they're a legit team. They're going to be significantly better than what they were a couple years ago. As for Lloyd Pierce being him being a head coach, I think the jury's still out a little bit. I think you got to give him time in order to make a judgment on him. I understand some Hawks fans might be a little bit frustrated by how these games have went the last couple of games, but let the season play out. Let's see what he can do once this team is at full health, because that's something that they're not at just yet. But there's a lot of talent on this team with Trey and John Collins. DeAndre Hunter's off to a great start. They have the pieces to where they can be competitive in the Eastern Conference. They're not going to be the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference when it's all said and done, but I think they have that ability to be a number 5 or a number 16. So, but again, they are very exciting to watch. They can score a lot of points. I think they're still the number 1 scoring offense in the NBA. So it's going to be exciting how everything plays out.
Well, I think the lovely Ms. Dolman hit it on the head when she talked about what all of the Atlanta area teams seem to suffer from is the inability to make adjustments, number one, and number two, taking their foot off the gas, too early in the game. It's like, okay, a game is not won in 2 quarters or 3 quarters. It's a 60-minute, or in the case of basketball, same thing, a 60-minute game, a 48-minute game. You have to play the entire game. You can't say to yourself, okay, we've done something, and you have to learn how to counterpunch. Even the great boxers do that. Well, speaking of counterpunch, we gotta take some punches at those bills. So we gotta go ahead and let our sponsors come on here and let the people do that at WIGO 1570 Atlanta's Incredible Radio. Don't go anywhere because social media is buzzing, and it's your turn to comment as well. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere, please. Thank you. See you. Nothing better than the sound of diesel in the morning. And what better place to get high horsepower diesel than the all-new 2024 F-250, now with 475 horsepower and over 1,000 foot-pound of torque. You know where to get it? From me, the minister, Jonathan Simmons at Allen Vigil Ford Commercial Sales. Because you know why? I'm the commercial truck guy in the shirt and tie.
This is OJ Howard with Real Talk Sports.
What's up, guys? This is Tim Tebow. You're listening to Real Talk Sports.
This is Charles Woodson. Let me grab the mic. You ready? This is Charles Woodson with Real Talk Sports. Hey, it's your boy JB Smooth with Real Talk Sports.
My man, JB Smooth. Yeah, so guys, we like to try to bring it to you from live on the scene. That was some stuff, ironically, from the blue carpet when the college football championship was played here. In the game you guys were talking about before, Alabama against Georgia, ESPN had an event, and we went and got those guys in the blue carpet. Now, I got to tell you something. That day was the day that do you guys remember a couple of years ago when Georgia had that record cold snap? I don't know if you guys remember that. We were out there. The temperature was 9 degrees. Yeah, so Ms. Dolman, I don't think you'll have to worry about any of that in Tampa Bay come February. So you can just be ready to just enjoy the sun and fun and all that stuff that's going on. And we look forward to actually, do again a lot of your coverage down there from the Super Bowl, because I think it's going to be, you're going to have some social distancing, but I still think it's going to be a great event overall with a lot of people, and especially this golf tournament, a big fundraiser, for this organization.
Yes, I'm very excited about it. Women of Color Golf, I love what they do for the community and bringing golfing opportunities to underprivileged neighborhoods and underprivileged youth. And one thing that my husband and I always talked about, you may or may not know, but we love to golf. Golfing was our life. We golfed all the time. And we wanted to bring golf to more minority women. You don't see a lot of minorities in the golfing world. And so that was something that was near and dear to our hearts. And so I'm so honored to be the ambassador for the Women of Color Golf, and looking forward to helping raise money so that they can afford these opportunities to young girls in Tampa, Florida, and just open their worlds to another level of athleticism and just creativity, and something that they can do for extracurricular activities. So I'm really excited about it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned about you and your husband being great golfers. I'm going to get them over to you. I was going through my archives, and so every year I used to cover the Warwick Dunn Foundation's annual event, and I actually have some photos of your husband on the range. Now, it's funny because a couple of times he kind of looked back like, hey, man, okay, I'm practicing here. What you doing? But got some great shots of him on the range. A lot of people don't know that he was really quite the golfer. And if you messed around and you had some loose change, he'd take it off from you on that golf course, just to let you know. Yep. Chris Tolman was one of the great players on a couple of teams, Falcons here, but most people know him from his years in the Vikings. And then, like I said again, after when he retired, was a guy known to take your money on the golf course if you were so inclined to match up against him. So, yeah, definitely, I'll get you those pictures, and I'm sure you relish them. I got him in his hat, chilling. Yeah, so the classic photos of Chris Tolman on the golf course.
Yes, he loved wearing those hats. That was his signature play, and covering up his face and with the sun. And it was just such a joy because I was always there golfing with him, and he just had everybody laughing. But one thing I loved is, like you said, he was a great, phenomenal golfer. And I told him all the time, you really could be a professional golfer. You are really good. And it was just a game that he loved.
And no doubt. And Mr. Johnson, Emmanuel Johnson, has been, like I said, buzzing on social media. We'll pop him up here. Yeah, what he remembers is your husband's days on that defensive line. He was an absolute beast. And that's really kind of what the Falcons are missing, really what they've been missing since the Matt Ryan era, is they haven't had anybody. I shouldn't say that. God forbid. Let me not say that because he might be watching, he might get mad. So they did, in fact, for a couple of years, have a guy to South Carolina. Was a bad man who rushed for us, and we got him in from the Jets. And we did have, he was actually a pretty good pass rusher, but really we have not had that since he has left. So yeah, that's what everybody's waiting for. The Falcons, can they get a pass rusher? And we're going to bring D. Orlando Ledbetter on in just a few minutes, and we're going to talk about that. And again, we're going to pop this up on the screen here. I'm going to minimize everybody for just a second. And finally, I think we got our questions up that we can pop up here. Let's see if we can get it here. We're going to everybody block for just a second. So I'm not throwing shade. I'm just trying to get these questions up. And I think these are them. And bam. Yeah, so we already talked about Ohio State versus Alabama. And we think that that's going to be a close one. The Hawks, are they for real or no? And then the big question we're going to get into with D. Orlando Ledbetter is, should the Falcons draft a quarterback in the first round if it's not Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields? So in other words, if those two guys are gone, do you think the Falcons should still draft a quarterback? Because we're going to talk to D. Ledbetter about some of the guys that are out there that are potential quarterback picks that the Falcons may want to pick up, but do they want to try to really risk a top 5 pick? Let's go to social media here for one more shot here, and then you guys can talk to me a little bit about what you may think. Let's go here. Emmanuel Johnson, he says, we're missing physicality on both sides of the ball. Okay. Tree, you played, I think when you were in high school, you played the 4 and the 5 or just the 4?
The 4 and the 5.
4 and the 5. Okay. And we talked a little bit earlier about the Hawks, how they've changed in terms of having now a presence. But just tell people again, and we talked about last week, how important it is to have in those key positions, whether it be basketball at the 4 or 5, football and defensive line, offensive line, to have that kind of physical, dominant, I'm not taking anything kind of play for those positions.
Well, I'll start with basketball. With basketball, it's so important to have somebody that's really being physical in the paint, because if you think about it, you don't want people just coming in the paint scoring. So as I said before, when I played, and even when I play in celebrity games now, the paint, I say that is my house, and nobody is coming in my house, and you are not scoring in my house. And that's just the way that I always played every game. It's so important to make sure that you let teams know you're going to have to shoot out there or stop and do a jump shot, because you're not welcome in my house. And not only that, but it's so important to box out and get rebounds. And when you are covering the paint, then you do get a lot of rebounds. And we talked about how important it is for teams to have offensive and defensive rebounds, which are game changers when it comes to the game of basketball. Then moving over to football, my husband always talked about how important it was at the line of scrimmage. And honestly, I didn't really pay that close attention to the line of scrimmage until I was dating my husband and watching football games with him, and then seeing how physical it is every single play. There's never a play off. And so you have to have teams that are really physical and coming off quick. One thing that my husband was known for, as the gentleman put in the post, he was really quick, and a lot of people said he had that lean because he came off of the ball so quick and with speed, and that's why he was so great at getting the quarterbacks and how he finished his career with 150.5 sacks. It's because he was always ready and ready to go at every moment. And the Minnesota Vikings, when you look at their defensive line, a lot of reasons that they were so good. When you look, they have the purple people eaters, and they were really big in defense. And defense really makes a big part of the game. Like I said before, when it comes to sports, defense wins championships. And I know people say that, and some people think that's overrated, but I don't. In order for you to win any championship, you have to be able to play defense and stop people from scoring. Otherwise, your team can score as much as you want, but if you're not able to stop teams, then you're just going back and forth.
Yeah, now, first of all, we got some breaking news here. Did I hear you say when you still play games? Brian, we might have to get popcorn out here. Hold on.
I play in the Balling for Lupus Loves celebrity basketball game every year. And I will say the past couple of years, my performance has been horrible. It's been horrific because I have not been able to actually go out and play and practice because, as you know, I was a 24-hour caregiver for my husband. And so literally my entire life was taking care of my husband, and I stopped doing everything, but I still would go and play in the games. And so I wasn't able to even go practice or shoot or do anything. So the last couple of years, awful. I am not ashamed to admit it. It was awful. But if you look back when I was actually, I was scoring and playing great and looking forward to the game next year. So you can come out and see. I definitely do not plan to play awful because I will go out and practice and get up some shots before game time.
Brian, we might have to get a little popcorn. I might have to see what color they're wearing so I get the terrible towel out there and cheer on my co-host. Oh, snap. I didn't know it was like that. We'll go to social media one more time. Our good buddy Emmanuel Johnson says he agrees with you. Football is a line of scrimmage game. Blocking and getting to the quarterback is just that simple. And the Falcons need to get nasty on the line. And that's I mean, that's what they've been missing, man. So that's really kind of going to be the big difficulty for the GM is how he's going to attack this draft. Now, I know if you look at teams around the league, like for example, Tree, you got a situation with your two favorite teams, the Vikings and the Lions. They're not exactly the same as the Falcons, but somewhat similar. You have a question: what are we going to do here at quarterback? We got two guys that are being paid, like Matt Ryan, a boatload full of money. And you have no Super Bowl to show for it. So now the question is not that these guys are excessively old, especially in the case of Kirk Cousins, but these guys are over 30. We have seen that rookie quarterbacks have come in immediately and made the change. But then on the case of the Vikings or the Lions, is that all they need, or could it be something else or a couple of something else that could turn these teams around? What would you like to see the Vikings draft for by position? Not necessarily a specific player, but Tree, who would you like to see?
Come to the Vikings?
Yeah, as far as a position player, do you want to see them try to get a quarterback, or would you like to see them try to get a running back? Kind of what position do you think the Vikings need the most help? And then what position do you think the Detroit Lions need the most help on?
I would like to see a running back with the Vikings. Okay. I think that would be a good position to see. And with my Detroit Lions, I think that the number one position, I would like to see possibly another wide receiver or a tight end. I'm going to change it. I think defense. I'm looking for defense because when we had Sue and our defense was the number 2 defense in the entire NFL, I really think defense makes it's like what starts the level of the game. So depending on your defense, I think your offense goes off of defense. And so I really think we need to get a big defense. And don't get me wrong, defense has improved some, but I really think if we can just get that really good defensive player, a good defensive end, I think that'll be a game changer for my Lions.
Yeah, so I think what you're thinking about is the fact that, hey, we got to play against, especially Detroit, you got to play against a guy who's probably going to be MVP this year, Aaron Rodgers, Brian, a guy you covered for a long time with the Packers, 247. So you're looking at that, and you're also looking at the fact that, Chicago, even though Trubisky is up and down, they certainly have a team that can, you got to stop them. You got to stop that ground attack. So, yeah, defense is going to be the big key going forward, no doubt about it. All right, we're going to do this. Another quick little mini break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to shift gears here, talk a little Falcons football, because you know who has entered the studio of the Lockdown Living Room. All right, everybody, you're listening and watching the Real Talk Sports Show. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay tuned. Are you in the market for a new vehicle? Well, check out Allen Vigil Ford Lincoln in Morrow, Georgia. We have one of the largest inventories in our area for both new and pre-owned vehicles, so we're sure to have something for everyone. Family owned and operated since 1982, customer satisfaction is our number one priority. Come see our full lineup of vehicles and find the one that best fits you. Give us a call today, 678-726-5739, or shop us 24/7 online at allenvigilford.net. All right, we're back here. That was the final break for those of you listening on WIGO AM 1570, Atlanta's Incredible Radio, because you guys know we have to let you go at 9 p.m. But for those of you watching on social media and all platforms, big shout out and thank you to those of you watching us on the replay on Twitter. Thank you for those of you watching on demand or live on YouTube and you Twitch people. What's up? And of course, Facebook Live. We appreciate you all the time. Well, speaking of appreciate, hey, you guys know when we are talking Atlanta Falcons, we have the one and only number one guy that is all about covering the Falcons. He's the embedded beat writer for AJC Sports. AJC Sports. I got that right. He's also an award-winning sports writer and a great educator as well. Esquire R. Palance, our one and only good friend, D. Orlando Ledbetter. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Hello, Reverend. Welcome. Thank you for having me on the show again tonight. And greetings to everyone. Ms. Dolman and Brian Jones here. Thanks for having me.
Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Glad to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, first of all, before we get started, D, we got to give you some props, man. He's rocking the fedora, boys. You see him? Everybody and ladies,
Yeah.
He got a fedora in full effect. Let me get that single screen action so you guys can see the fedora up close. Bam! Fedora's working. Well, again, D-Lab, we appreciate you coming on to join us. So the lovely Miss Doma was talking a little bit about her Lions and Vikings on kind of what they might need. And she wants to go defense and pound and ground because they already got Dalvin Cook. She said she wants to get another running back in to just kind of slow the pace down when they play teams like the Packers and the like. Looking at the Falcons, okay, we just saw their last game against Tampa Bay. It was what you said was going to be. Pretty much a one-half wonder and then out the door with Tom Brady putting an exclamation point on his season away from Bill Belichick. Looking again at the Falcons, looks like they have a number 4 pick. Any changes in your mind in terms of who they might want to pick? I'm going to pop this on the screen really quickly because the question I asked was, and I'll ask you the same, and I'm sure Ms. Dolman and Brian might have some questions for you as well in that regard. What I asked people is that if the Falcons, see if I can pull that up, come to Papa here. Where are you? Should the Falcons draft a quarterback in the first round if that quarterback is not named Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields?
That's a no for me. That means that's Zach Wilson, the BYU kid. I think you got problems in Atlanta. Quarterback isn't really one of them for right now. The people that are coming in, they got to have a short-term, a mid-range, and a long-range plan to get to the championship. Once you go young quarterback, you kind of giving up the next couple of years, and the fans are already, not coming and defaulting on their loans and so forth. So, your quickest way to win is to get a veteran coach, get a good GM, pick the best people, retool this roster, and look to the future as you go. Now, that's that. If they want to keep, that's the simplest thing to do. The hardest thing would be to tear it all the way down. Go up to the top and get one of the quarterbacks and start over and create a buzz in the fan base. You could do that, but you're gonna lose for the next couple of years.
Well, Ms. Dolman, what would you prefer? Would you want to see them kind of go all in, kind of a Julio Jones type trade where they kind of mortgage the future to try to get a Fields or Lawrence, or would you rather see them kind of do like D-Led said, kind of put the pieces back together and have a team that can hopefully win, if not next year, within the next year or two?
I agree with D-Led. Just put the pieces together. I've already thought that we had talent, so I don't think that that's the problem. I think that there's just some pieces that we have to fit together to make it work. And I think that coaching was a big part of it. You'll even notice for whatever reason, after they let go of the coach, the Falcons came and they played a great game. And so I just think that it's just time to rebuild. Find a coach that they really like and get the players all on board. And it's all about that mentality. Just have to get that game-winning mentality in their heads, in each player's heads. And I think that once we can do that, you'll start seeing a big difference with the Falcons.
Brian, how about you, buddy?
So I think when it comes to drafting a quarterback in the top 5, I think the Falcons have to be, if they want to do that, they have to be sure that they have the guy that they want. They shouldn't push or press for a quarterback because it's not really the biggest need for them right now. If they are able to happen to find, whether it's Trevor Lawrence, who's probably going to be taken number 1 to Jaguars, but if they like Justin Fields and he's available, then I could see him doing that. But if there's someone like Zach Wilson or Trey Lance or some of the other quarterbacks that are still available, then they should really look at some other areas of need, whether it's offensive line, getting another edge rusher, because that's the top need. I think the problem is they just have so many needs because, from a talent perspective, they're not where they want to be. So I think they're in an interesting spot. So if I really don't think they should press for a quarterback. I think that's something they can hold off on because Matt Ryan had a solid year, not anything like outstanding, but I think he still has a couple good years left in him. So I think they're in a situation where, and depending on who's going to be the head coach and general manager, they have to really look at this roster and say, what can we do with this team? Is it possible? Can we be a playoff contender in 2021? If not, then we have to make some decisions where we have to start from scratch, like they did in 2008. And I think one of the other issues they have is their salary cap. I think that kind of holds them back a little bit. So whoever is the head coach, whoever is the general manager, they have a lot of work to do in getting when it comes to turning this franchise back around.
D-Led, do we think that we might see any mandates from Arthur Blank? Like we saw actually, ironically, in those Super Bowl years that I got to have 4 starters out of this draft. Do you think he's going to put that kind of pressure or put that kind of thing out there with the new GM and coach combo?
Well, they're not gonna. He's not gonna put that kind of pressure on him. But it's pretty obvious that they got to restock the lines. I asked them on Monday. I was like, "Hey, how did we get here? You were just in the Super Bowl. I mean, it's only a couple years later, and we're talking about the new coach and the new GM and 4-12. How we get here?" And so, he hemmed and hawed a little bit, and but then he got right to it and said, "Hey, we had some misses in the draft and in free agency." So that's the talent not being as good as they thought it was, or they already know that hey, it was 4-12 team. 7, 8-8, maybe 7-9 again. And that's just not going to cut it. He doesn't want to be in the middle with the average teams. He wants to be on the other side of that, in the 12-win, 13-win team. Seattle, Green Bay, 49ers, not this year, but of recent, where he's playing for NFC playoff berths and NFC titles. So, he saw that it slipped down, and the main reason he said was because of the slips in the draft and in free agency.
Well, we got like I said, our man Emmanuel Johnson, bro. I'm gonna have to put the link on so you can actually call in. Like you don't have to be on the screen, but you've been tearing social media up. So let me go ahead and hit Emmanuel again. So he asked the question, number 1, what about Trey Lance as a potential pick? If he's obviously, that's not a guy you want to pick at 4, do you? No.
Not at 4, and then the whole Carson Wentz thing is scaring everybody on him. So, yeah, I'll stay away from Trey Lance right now, especially at 4.
Right. Yeah. So I think the other thing you have is that now some people look at him, like I've watched a little bit of the film that they had on one of these top 10 quarterback picks, and they talk about the fact that, he's got a big arm, he's got a big body, but he's not that accurate from what we can see. I don't even think he was at 50%. Whoa, I got to stop. I forgot that I got people listening to this broadcast on WIGO 1570, and they told us we can only stay on to 9 o'clock. It's 8:59. All right, everybody, listen, WIGO, Appreciate you guys tuning in and watching us. I should say listening to us. If you want to continue the broadcast, remember, go to my website, realtalksports.net, click watch live, and we'll be there. Until the next time, God bless you and have a great night. All right, back to us here on the broadcast. Yeah, so that's my thought. I mean, now, here's another way we could attack this. And I'll let Mr. Emmanuel ask the question. He said, when you're picking at the top, you have to go quarterback or trade down if your guy's not there. Now, what do you think about the idea, D-Led, of trading down and trying to get some additional picks to bolster this team?
Yeah, you don't have to go quarterback when you got a $40 million quarterback. Yeah, that would be a way to go. If somebody's in love with Trey Lance or Wilson, a Wilson kid, and they want to give you some picks, you need some picks. So, yeah, go ahead and do that. You got 6 of the 7 picks. You might get 3 comp picks, and you're going in there with 9. So unless you think this is the greatest draft ever, and you need to load up on picks, go right ahead. So, that's certainly something that I know Mike Cunningham's talked about with me and for one of his future columns. Is, hey, they got to trade back. I'm like, no, not if Justin Fields is there. They're going to take him at 4. So, but he's no way going to be at 4 after he just lit up Clemson with those 6 touchdown passes. So that's where I'm standing at on that. You don't have to trade back, but I understand it if you did.
The other Ms. Dolman, who would you like to see? I shouldn't say who. What type of player would you like to see the Falcons pick in that first round draft? Do you want to see him go offense? Well, I know your husband was a stud on the line. Do you think they should take a risk and maybe go to some of the defensive players out there to bolster up the D?
I'm going to go with defense, yes, because I think that will definitely help the Falcons. Is getting a really great defender. I mean, they have some great defenders and they have some great plays, but if we can just really get more sacks and terrorize the quarterbacks at the line of scrimmage, I think that'll be a big game changer for the Falcons and get that momentum going for the offense when they want to run plays.
D-Led, if they were to actually pick at 4 and get a defender, who would you like to see them grab as a defensive player?
I got 2 people right now I'm looking at. Michael Parsons from Penn State. He set out this year. I want to see if he's a pass rusher. Can help you at all from that standpoint. Also, the kid at Miami. 4 is probably too high for him, but I still look at him at 4. And then Patrick Surtain. The cornerbacks. I mean, Kendall Sheffield. You thought you had a steal in the 4th round. And he hadn't played a lot at Ohio State and Alabama. And then, this year you put him on the field and he didn't do so well. So if you're ready to cut bait there and you move him back to nickel, then you go get Surtain. And then Surtain and AJ lock down the corners. And hopefully you give your pass rush a little bit more time to keep fighting and getting there.
So you guys are thinking maybe defense, and here's some of the guys we talked about. Here they are, Michael I got his name spelled backwards, but Parsons, linebacker from Penn State, and also Patrick Surtain at the quarterback position. Now I got if you're going to go and get a quarterback in this draft, here's some other guys that pop up. I don't necessarily, obviously, you want to pick them at 4, but we talked about Trey Lance. We talked about Zach Wilson. The other guys they talk about, obviously, are Kyle Trask. I think he's coming out this year. Jamie Newman and Desmond Ridder, who we just saw with Cincinnati against Georgia. Could these 2 guys be a dark horse candidates to maybe come on and be picked by the Falcons sometime in maybe the 2nd or 3rd round?
I think a little bit later, maybe 4. I'm going to need some players in the first 3 rounds. I'm not going to need the backup quarterback right now. And then, maybe the backup quarterback turns into Russell Wilson because, he went in the 4th. So Trask is big, but I mean, he didn't blow me away when I saw him this year. Jamie Newman, I was looking forward to seeing him this year until he opted out. I think he got some bad information from the pro scouts, or he thought he was going to get beat out by JT Daniels, and so he didn't want that to happen either. So, I wanted to see more of him. I don't think they're 3rd round type talents. Ridder. I like Ridder, but I don't see that. I'm not a good mobile moving quarterback evaluator. He passed pretty good, left that ball up in the air too much. It should have beat Georgia. I want to see a little bit more sharper pass and a little bit more what I saw when I watched Justin Fields cut up Clemson the other night.
Well, I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see what these Falcons do. No doubt. They have to put together a team that can win immediately, because all of us on here know that nobody is going to pay any money to go see a losing team. Unless, of course, like you just mentioned, you have somebody like a Justin Fields, a game changer, kind of like what Michael Vick did, came in for somewhat aging quarterback, a guy that ironically had just taken his team to the Super Bowl a couple of years before, and basically turned the city on its head. So I don't know if that's possible. It's going to be very, very interesting looking at these Falcons going forward. D-Led, just at some of the teams that you see now going into the playoffs, how much of a chance do you think it is for Tampa Bay to actually be the first team to host the Super Bowl in their city? I mean, because Tom Brady has looked not too shabby these last few weeks.
Yeah, usually at the end of the season, I get a chance to exhale and study the brackets and see who's going to win and who's going to go where if they win. And I haven't had that time because the Falcons been interviewing everybody the last couple of days. But they certainly have played well down the stretch, Reverend. They certainly put up 47 against Detroit, 44 against the Falcons. That defense is very, very good. They got to get Devon White back. JPP kind of got the last two games off, so that was good. He gets some rest. And Sue, he's been there with the Rams, in the Super Bowl with the Rams team. So he's been there before. He probably wants to go back and atone for that one. So the big money in the NFC is, hey, the weatherman or Mother Nature or Father Nature. However cold it is in Green Bay and how much snow is coming down, the next couple of weeks are going to determine who's going to the Super Bowl. So if you can't go up there and win, you're going to be in trouble.
Brian, do you have a candidate so far that you picked out you think is going to be our Super Bowl contender from the NFC and maybe even from the AFC?
I think, and I think because of, and I know it's hard because they're both number one seeds, I think it's Kansas City and Green Bay. I think they've been the two best teams all year. Aaron Rodgers talked about this in the past where he wants to host the NFC Championship game at Lambeau Field. Now, it's going to be, if they win their divisional round game in the next couple of weekends, it's going to be a little bit different because there's not going to be any fans, if not limited fans there. But he's never hosted an NFC Championship game. You go back to the 49ers last year, that was in San Francisco. And then the Falcons 4 years back, that was the final game at the Georgia Dome. And even when they won the Super Bowl in 2010, they played at Chicago, and that was the game where Jay Cutler got hurt and got criticized for it. So Aaron Rodgers always wanted to host the NFC Championship game. If that happens, and again, D-Led's right, weather does play a factor, then I don't see any team, whether it's the Saints, whether it's the Bucs, because I think those are two teams that could come out of the NFC as well and play in the Super Bowl, go up there and beat Green Bay. I think when they were 13-3 last year, they got criticized because they just found ways to win. They weren't overly dominant, and they got exposed against the 49ers. This year's a lot different. They're more comfortable on offense. Aaron Rodgers is probably going to win the MVP. Devontae Adams had a monster year, and he missed 3 games. Aaron Jones is Aaron Jones. Jair Alexander, the cornerback, had a Pro Bowl type year. Elton Jenkins, their offensive lineman, played well. So they have all the tools to win the Super Bowl. And again, the AFC, the Chiefs, they played well all throughout the year. They're a team that when they were in the playoffs last year, they were down by double digits in every one of their playoff games, and they found a way to win. So even though I think the AFC is a lot stronger than the NFC, I think the Chiefs are finding a way to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. So I think it's going to be Packers and the Chiefs when it's all said and done.
Ms. Dolman, what say you?
I think I agree with the Kansas City Chiefs, but after watching the game with the Buccaneers and now that they have Antonio Brown, I'm really thinking that the Buccaneers are going to really come out and surprise a lot of people because now Tom Brady is really starting to play his normal game, and I'm starting to see kind of like the old Tom Brady, which I don't really want to say the old Tom Brady because he's always just really showing out, but it's been a difficult year at Tampa Bay. So I don't know. I was very impressed with the game that I saw, and he's connecting with Gronk, and I just really think that the Buccaneers are really going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into any conspiracy theories about, getting Brady in for his final shot at the ring, being the first team to host the Super Bowl. But I will tell you this, D-Led, you talked about the weather. Well, we know that TB12 can play in bad weather. That we do know. So that's going to be the wild card, I think, because normally, obviously, a southern-based team or an indoor team would have some problems. But, Brady played in New England for 19 years. Of course, the legend started with the controversial Chuck rule, fumble, not fumble, in a blizzard.
Right.
So I think that Tampa Bay, if anybody, has the best shot at going up to Green Bay and knocking off Green Bay. All right, let's shift back to our Falcons for a second. D-Led, everything's been buzzing, as you mentioned. Falcons already starting the interview process already. Bring us up to date on where the Falcons are as far as the key guys that they've interviewed so far at both the GM and the head coaching position.
Okay, yeah, I'll start with the coaches. We started Friday with Raheem Morris before the game. Monday, Eric Bieniemy went first, and then Robert Saleh late night. It wasn't late for him; it was from the West Coast. And then I got word today that they got permission to talk to Joe Brady from Carolina, the former LSU coordinator. So those are the four candidates in the house. Four that have 3 interviewed, one coming. The one that's missing that we wanted to see was Brian Daboll. He's supposed to be the best candidate of the group, or up there on par with Bieniemy. So, but I don't think they can talk to him because Buffalo's playing in the playoffs. So some of the candidates are available, some are not. Now on the general manager front, they already had interviewed Rick Smith, the Houston Texans GM, and then Anthony Robinson, the young director of scouting for the Falcons. So they had those 2 done. Now today they interviewed Brad Holmes, the director of college scouting for the Rams. That might have been in person because he lives here in Atlanta. A lot of the scouts, they don't have to live where their teams are because they try to live where most of the players are, which is the Southeast, of course. So Brad's from here. He played at A&T, North Carolina A&T, moved his way up through the ranks, and he interviewed today. And then Morocco Brown of the Indianapolis Colts, he interviewed today. Morocco played ball at NC State. He was a 2-time honorable mention player there. Been in the scouting ranks with Cleveland, the Washington team, and been with the Colts for the last couple of years. He drafted Darius Leonard, Quentin Nelson, some of the good kids, Jonathan Taylor, the running back that the Colts have been able to be decent post Andrew Luck. So those are the 4 people in the building that I've interviewed so far. I'm not surprised that Reggie McKenzie is not hasn't been interviewed because he doesn't fit that. They want to have the warm and fuzzy, the collaborative where the coach and the GM get along and hold hands and all that. Whereas the traditional football setups, hey, the GM's like, hey, I go get your players. I know what scheme you play, and then we go play. You go coach. And if Dan Quinn, they gave him power over personnel, he needed, as a first-time coach, he needed to learn how to be a coach and a leader to tell the offensive coordinator run the ball on 3rd and 1 in the Super Bowl. So I don't like how this search is going about. We're going to share some thoughts with that. If it doesn't make a U-turn for the better here, we get a firm GM with a coach who all he has to do is coach and let him tell him what kind of players he like, and then when they get the players, then you coach them up. So we'll see how it turns out here. But all this, sit around the campfire and winning the building and making sure the carrot is nice and working and hot and the marshmallows are great. Man, this is football, and there's gonna be some disagreements. Well, you pick the best people, the best football players, you go play football on Sunday. You know, that if they don't like each other on Monday morning, that's fine.
Tree, what do you think about the idea? Last two Falcons coaches were, basically defensive coordinator type guys. Do you like the idea that, through these guys, Bieniemy and the other ones are more offensive minded?
I do like the idea of a defensive-minded coach. And actually, the number one coach that I have for my teams, which I hope my Detroit Lions get them, is Robert Saleh. That's San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator. I think he's a great coach. And I love hearing his name on the list for the Falcons. I think that wherever he goes, he is going to be a great coach. Because as I always say, I think the defense makes it sets the tone for offense. And when you look at Coach Saleh, when he's coaching, his players respect him. His players love him. He motivates them. He has that oomph that I'm talking about, that the Falcons need, that the Lions need, that a lot of teams need. And so I would agree with the defensive end. Not a defensive end, but taking the defensive way to answer your question.
See, D-Led, this is what happens when you've been married to a, Hall of Famer. Comes off the edge. She's like, I don't care anything about the offense. It's all about that D. And that's it. Well, I mean, really, I think at the end of the day, however they do it, I really don't care. And I think the average fan doesn't care. I think what they want to see is a winning formula on the team. And the biggest thing is the ability to not blow leads in terms of having a coaching staff that's able to make decisions to counteract measures that have done against them, because the Falcons, as we all know, have played extremely well for half, played extremely well for third quarter. But once coaching changes, once strategy has changed, it's like all of a sudden everybody goes, oh, what do we do now? So that's what I really want to see is a coach that understands how to make counter moves, and a coach that's able to some degree find a scheme or to find a player's end scheme that can impose their will on the other team. Because Tree, you talked about it. Brian, you talked about how the Packers done it, and D-Led, you talked about the fact on numerous occasions how the offense nor the defense from the trenches can't do anything to control the play when the Falcons are playing right now. And I think that's really the big key.
Yeah, Reverend, I certainly agree with you. We had the big talk with Arthur and Rich McKay on Monday. Big Zoom call for the local media where they're trying to, wave the flag and so forth. But what came out of it, something interesting. McKay said, hey, it isn't about an offensive or defensive guy. We need a guy that's going to lead the football team. And you just can't be a defensive guy and be an offensive guy. You got to be a leader. And, leadership calls for you to, you tell your offensive coordinator what to do sometimes. Cause you what to tell the defensive coordinator what to do sometimes. So I think Robert Saleh is a great candidate. He's going to Detroit. I do believe he's from up that way, and that's really going home for him. And my Michigan folks are all ready to get behind him. That's who they want. If him and Thomas Dimitroff can hit it off, that looks like the Detroit move. I want to see Eric here. I want to see the staffs, who they're bringing with them and so forth. And they said that's not important either. But I'm like, yeah, that's kind of important. So that's what I like to see. Raheem is still in the mix. Raheem's in the mix. He did enough to still be in the mix. He's also interviewing in Jacksonville. And we'll stay on watch as to whether that's a sham interview or not. The words on the streets that I already got to deal with Urban Meyer. So if Urban Meyer gets a job, then we're going to know, the Fritz Potter Alliance is watching them, the Research Global Sports Institute, Mike Loxley's group. And so, we're going to call them out on the floor. If they're doing the same old thing to get Urban Meyer in there without interviewing people in a proper and fair way. So, it's already, it's only 48 hours and, my phone's been ringing all day and night.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Urban Meyer thing, obviously, when that first started rumbling out, I started thinking to myself that, he's going to end up somewhere. He's a guy that he can't stay still. And I don't blame him. I mean, he's not as bad as Bobby Petrino, but he's kind of got that little bit of oil on him.
Yeah, Ryan.
You know what I mean?
Situation with the assistant coach and trying to cover up the domestic violence stuff.
And at Florida, we had some guys that were, we talk about guys being killers, but they had some real actual killers that played for Florida. So there's no question that this guy's got a very shady track record, but it shows you though, how people will almost put up with anything if you win.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. And I'm sure he'll repent and talk the good talk and say I didn't know that was there will be a rehabilitation period, or there's already been one. So but and then they're gonna talk about second chances and and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. I mean, I like the guy. I met him when he was at Florida. He was up here to speak to the boosters. We sat in his car or van or whatever they had, and we did an interview with the AJC before going to speak with the boosters. He went to Cincinnati. He's from Ashtabula, Ohio. Led Ohio State back to prominence. So yeah, he knows how to get it done on the football field. I've been following him since his Bowling Green days. But the NFL is a different beast.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you got we've seen that with other college coaches. Even the great Nick Saban couldn't quite put it together because, again, the inability to be able to get the right players at the right time on the field. Somehow or another, who knows who made the actual decision, but you end up bypassing a future Hall of Famer in Drew Brees, which had he stayed, who knows? So, a lot of things that you kind of run into when you're trying to get out here and coach these teams. Well, I'm going to do this, guys. You know how we do it. As we get towards the end of the broadcast, everybody has to tell people how they can be found, social media and the like. So, Mr. Brian Jones, you know how we do it, sir? The floor is yours.
I appreciate it. I'm the sports entertainment writer for popculture.com. You can find my work at either popculture.com or popculture.com/sports. Earlier today, I got to talk to Jacob Bertrand, who is one of the main cast members of the hit Netflix series Cobra Kai. That's the #1 show on Netflix right now. So that interview will come out later on this week. So be sure to check that out on popculture.com. You can follow me on Twitter. That's at Brian Jones_PC. And I also have a podcast, which is called Always Football Season. You can listen to that wherever you get your podcast. And I also have a Facebook for the podcast, which is facebook.com/Always Football Season.
I always say when I grew up, Brian, I'm gonna be like you, bro, because you
All
everywhere. Listen, man, we appreciate you, Brian. Thank you, and we look forward to having you back on again real soon.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Of course, we have to wrap it up with the Esquire, par excellence himself, Mr. D'Orlando Ledbetter. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Reverend, for having me once again on Real Talk Sports. You can find us at ajc.com. Bowtie Chronicles podcast will be dropping at 8 a.m. on Wednesdays, followed by the Cover 9 at 9 blog. And then you can always follow everything on Twitter at DOrlandoAJC. And our Facebook page is Atlanta Falcons News Now. Thank you very much.
D-Led, one of these days, I'm going to have to, on a side tip, I'm going to have to find out, man, where you get them fedoras from, bro. Because, I'm a hat man. I kind of keep it on the low, but I kind of like that. So a little conversation. All right. D'Orlando Ledbetter, Esquire par excellence, legendary, award-winning sports writer. Thank you, sir. And we look forward to having you back again real soon.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Well, Ms. Dover, it does appear that just you and I now wrapping up. We got about maybe 4 or 5 minutes to go here in the broadcast. One of the things that I want to ask you about, we're going to jump off of for just a second, sports. And I'm going to ask you this question. Now, D-Led and actually Brian talked about interviewing some guys from Netflix. Did you get a chance to watch Netflix much? You a TV person?
No.
No. Okay.
I know it's bad.
It's good.
I don't really watch a lot of television.
Right. That's good.
I see some things on Netflix, but I haven't seen that show.
Okay. I'm sure you may or may not have heard the buzz about a show that they've done recently called The Bridgertons. If you have not, he said, no, I ain't heard nothing about that at all. Well, anyway, it is a show that's very interesting. It's done by Shonda Rhimes. I will tell people, it is a little, you got to have to kind of hit your fast forward a little bit because there are some times where it shifts away from a standard PG rating into a real hard R rating. But outside of that, it actually is a very, very interesting show. It's set in merry old England, I think sometime in the 17 or 1800s. And it's very, very interesting because she shows it from a more diverse cast, including having a black queen, which I found out later is historically true. So just very, very interesting. So if you guys get a chance to watch Bridgerton again, I'm not necessarily endorsing it. I will tell you got to be on the remote, especially after about I think around episode 3, because they be getting into it pretty good. So you have to but I'm just saying, I don't want to come. Oh, Minister, I turned it on. I couldn't believe what I saw, because that's how it is. I'll be on blast forever and a day. I encourage people to watch something crazy. So, but definitely a great program. And also, on a real serious note, for a second, I'm sure you got a chance to vote. Did you vote already? You early voter, or
I voted early. I sure did.
Okay. I voted today. You guys, I'll probably talk about that on tomorrow because I do like a little show called Issues and Insights. So I'll talk a little bit about that today. All I'm really saying to everybody is please, let's all pray that we all keep our heads on our shoulders, that regardless of who wins the Senate tonight, no matter what happens in the White House in terms of the Senate and on the floor about ratifying the vote, please, everybody, does everybody remain calm? Okay. I mean, the Lord's going to work it out eventually. We're all right. The country's not going to implode unless you make it implode. So watch some football. just do that. And last but not least, any other breaking news that you want to kind of let us know that you have going on, like even before the Super Bowl? I know you got great stuff going on then. You got anything happening before then you want to tell us about?
Well, right now I am just working on my candle and cosmetic company and my nonprofit organization, and of course, doing what I can to raise money for brain cancer awareness. Mainly glioblastoma research is what my husband passed from. And so that really does keep me busy. I'm also looking for any opportunities to give back and make virtual appearances because I am still Ms. America International. And so I am looking to go and visit some schools again, join some kids' classes and their Zooms and different opportunities like that. So if anybody knows of any opportunities for me to visit or make appearances virtually, please reach out. And I am on social media at It's Latresa and also at Ms. MS America International 2020.
All right, now that's some breaking news. So you now have a cosmetic company. Aha. See, this is what I love about this show. I got all this breaking news happening. So we definitely want to find out more about that. And what we're going to do next week is I'll get all that stuff for you ahead of time so we can put it up on the screen so people can go to your website. I know you're building your website and doing some different things, but at least they can follow you more on social media. Matter of fact, let me try to type down on social media now so you guys can see it. And I believe it's ITSLATRESA.
Yes.
Is that on social media? So we'll pop that up so you guys can see that. Please follow her. Great inspirational stuff that you will see there. She always tries to give you some inspirational posts as well as some great fashion stuff, great fashion tips. And of course, you'll be able to see her at some of her various pageants and some of her different gowns. I know a lot of you women that might see it might have a little envy. That's okay. It's all right. And that's it right there. That's it. Follow her. It's Latresa, there it is right there, guys. Follow her, check her out on social media. And again, if you go there, she also will have links to her other social media page, the official one for the pageant as well. So go ahead and check her out on social media. Like I said, great stuff. She always posts a lot of stuff in her stories. Again, very inspirational. And I think it really will help for everybody, number one, men and women, but especially those of you who have maybe walked the same path or maybe walking the path that she walked herself in terms of being a caretaker, a wife, all these types of things. She talks some about that. She did it very, very gracefully. And so again, guys, just follow her. And like I said, again, if you want to see what she's doing in the pageant, go on there and she'll have the pageant information as well. So you guys can support that. And definitely, they have Giving Tuesday, I think, every week. She's got a wonderful nonprofit. You can give to that and support her that way as well. So again, we appreciate all those of you who have been watching us here tonight on the Real Talk Sports Show. Ms. Dolman, as always, we are very, very excited to have you have joined us here in the Lockdown Living Room. And we're excited to see what kind of good stuff you have coming on. And again, I think the Super Bowl stuff is going to be great. And I'll talk to you later on because we're trying to coordinate kind of what we're doing, what you're doing, so we can give people kind of really a great feel for the Super Bowl. And hopefully once we get back to some, more normal stuff, that we can give people some of this and some of the other events, because they have big stuff going on in terms of off the field events at all the major championships. So we're excited about doing some stuff down the road.
I am too. And one thing I do want to add, all of the events that I'm participating in, what I really love is that a lot of the funds that are going from funds raised is going to charities and different organizations to give back. So that's a big part of why I am participating.
And that's really the key. I mean, really, since I've met you, and ironically, I met you at a fundraising event. I think it was for Beyond the Game. I think it was when I first met you, and it was big fundraisers. Your friend has been doing some great stuff, both here and overseas. And so, that's how it originally started. It's all about giving back.
It is. We're blessed to be a blessing to other people. I've lived my life that way since I was a young girl. And that is anything that I can do to help others. That's what I'm constantly doing. So anything that is giving back to great causes, to our youth, to women, just to anything, our veterans, our wounded warriors. I mean, there's so many organizations that I do support, and that's what it's all about. Giving back and making a difference.
The Wounded Warriors, they do a great job. I had an opportunity to do some interviews with the people from Callaway Sports, speaking of golf, a few years ago at the Tour Championship. They actually had fitted a couple of players that had some prosthesis with some special golf clubs and equipment. And I tell you, a couple of the guys there really put me to shame. I mean, I could not believe how well these guys were hitting the ball. And I was thinking, dang, I said, here I am fully both legs, and I can't do anything like that. So again, it was very, very encouraging to see, some of the outreach that you see going on out here in the community. And I'm just so glad that you're a part of it. I'm glad that you're a part of our show, so we can, show you and show more people some of the things that you're doing and just some of the good things that are going out there in the world of sports.
Well, thank you. I'm so honored and humbled to be a part of your show. And I love what you all do and what you stand for. So I'm so happy to be here. It's a blessing.
But it is. Okay, one more time how people can follow you. I'll pop it up here on social media. I have it here. Bam! There you go. That's how they can follow you right there. And again, they can get all the information for the pageant, even some of the nonprofit things, just by following you right there, correct?
Yes, correct. Follow me on my social media. I post all of the things, and you can see different links. So, yes.
All right, there you go, guys. We are getting ready to go now. We got to go. We are past the 9:30 hour. Again, we appreciate all those of you who have decided to join us here. We understand that you could be watching anything. You could be watching sports. You could be watching Netflix. And so many of you have tuned in and allowed me. The other thing, too, is to share this on your various group pages. So, again, we thank you so much for allowing us to do that. Again, if you want to follow me, personally, you can follow me on social media at Minister J. Sim. I actually am a real live minister. It's not a joke. We actually do inspirational broadcasts as well. If you need anything from us, prayer, or just, you need something, anything I can do to help you, you can give me a call. That's my cell. Please use it judiciously, please. 678-410-9833. I'd be more than happy to talk with you and do whatever I can to assist you any way we can. Remember, check us out on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. There it is, youtube.com/Real Talk Sports TV. We actually have the live broadcast up there. You can see it. You also can see some of our high school football coverage. We covered high school football, and the like is there. And as we always say, thank you for watching. And until next time, when you join us on the broadcast, remember, if you, ma'am, you, sir, don't know Jesus Christ, your personal Savior, please get to know him today. Why? Because nobody loves you like him. Not your mom, not your auntie, not grandmom, not your babe, not your boo. Nobody loves you like Jesus. And he's the only way that you can have a true relationship with God. I don't know about you, but I think if any time we need that, we need it now. All right, guys. Again, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, God bless you and have a wonderful evening. So long.
Bye.
I got to hold that pose. Good night.